Hi, I'm Darius, and you're watching Russ Cam.
What we're doing here is we're looking for new speakers for Tech Ed. Each speaker gets 5 minutes to do a presentation to impress the judges. One lucky winner goes on to get a full meal ticket as a speaker at next year's Tech Ed.
I walked up to Richard Campbell and asked if he had any alternates or wild card openings for Speaker Idol. Lo and behold, he did. So I had all of a few hours to basically get ready for that and try to compete there. Unfortunately, didn't make it. Maybe next year.
There was a pretty sizable crowd there watching your presentation, and I've got some feedback, from the judges for you to take with you.
Why Tuffy loved this graph. This graph is on the same axis. Menard is plotting position, direction of movement, number of troops, time, and temperature.
As a technical speaker, you are one of the best I've ever seen. You came out on stage and you owned it from the very first second. And yet, every talk I've ever seen on data visualization shows that graphic.
Linking it back to the pie charts, because you opened with the pie charts. If you didn't open and say pie charts, if you just said, I'm going to talk to you about data visualization, never said the word software developer, I wouldn't agree with Chris. But because you did lead in, I was waiting for one more slide.
Now as a developer, I'm not really sure how I can make a chart like that. And that's what I really want to come to Tech Ed for, is to learn how to do it right.
I felt that it was a bit of a history lesson, and therefore, what's the relevance to me?
So today I want to share a little bit of some of the things I've been working on. In particular, I want to show how to do a nav bar.
I think that was a good, solid performance. You showed me the finalized example of what your plugin does, but you didn't show me what happens without it. And I didn't know how to connect the dots.
I like the fact that you personalized it. Again, the same thing that you kind of said, like you're a rebel, you do different, you like to go about the grain. But I thought that you took maybe a little too much time at the top to set that up. You probably could have shortened that up a little bit.
I might give one piece of feedback when it comes to hand gestures, maybe a little bit following up on what Mr. Sells had said, is that doesn't work in a larger venue. So find a tool, my personal preference is Zoom It, that you can actually use to highlight your code better if you need to.
Your language, being somebody who's not all that familiar with jQuery and the other things, there were times when you dipped into DevSpeak, and I just sort of glazed over, thought, I'm not sure what's going on here. But there are other times when you're really quite clear, when you're talking about the array and showing the various bits and pieces.
We are good, and let's check the server number 2. Thank you very much. I thought that was a nice introduction, to sort of talk about, Hyper-V. I noticed you got a bit flustered at the beginning when your mouse didn't click. Again, happens to the best of us. But you just need to recover a little better. Again, same comments I made before, filling the time.
You have a fairly strong accent, and I'm certainly the last person to have to comment on accents, but you have to adjust your tempo in speaking a little bit.
Don't apologise. So if there is something that goes wrong, like the mouse effect doesn't work or something else like that, don't say sorry.
I said sorry.
Yes, you said sorry. You actually apologised.
You said you can replicate virtual machines between servers, and Hyper-V allows that, and that's great. But we never said why.
Inevitably, when I go to teams and organizations and I ask, why aren't you doing more functional testing? The first response I get is, what's testing?
I have to say, wow.
You pitched it at exactly the right level for this sort of audience. However, you did say, we love reusability, which means, who's the we? The we, I would think, would tend to be developers. We hadn't established that the audience was all developers apart from me. So if it was, then okay, I can live with that. But if it was half-half, then I'm sure the developers amongst us know how much we love reusability, and you IT pros like it when we don't break stuff by introducing new stuff. Isn't that right? Okay, so that sort of thing, you cover both sides of the audience.
I really wanted to see a little bit of HTML and say, well, how do we find that element? And I wanted you to show me how I find it without using the ID. I want to show how do I use it with CSS, how do I find it when I'm using XPath. So I can say, oh, there's the element, we've got a bunch of different ways to show it, and that would really drive your point home.
You had a few awkward phrases, like you said, control IDs on those controls. So kind of using control and controls.
All right, so my name is Esteban Garcia, and I'm going to take you from 0 to CI in 5 minutes.
I liked your lead-in. I liked the picture of the baby. You committed the cardinal sin of speaking, which is you are using terms and using terms that you didn't define.
So I think your tempo was right on the edge of being acceptable.
The topic is something that I could probably see as more relevant to a longer time slot. It felt like you were rushed because you had a lot to push in to that period of time.
I understand that the speaker idle rules disallow a demo monkey, which is too bad. Speaker idle is wrong. You should have a demo monkey. Because what that allows you to do is have someone run the keyboard and type the blah, 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 right? And you can be up front, engaging with the audience, explaining what's going on. That would have made all the difference in this case.
So we have to find a way to deliver security across our organization.
You had great energy, you had great presence, you had great volume. It was interesting and fun to listen to. I like that. Honestly, I had trouble following the story. One anchor slide I loved. Here's the problem we're trying to solve. But the rest of the story was muddled for me. I couldn't follow it.
We're also trained to do the credibility thing up front, and short of admitting you're from Canada, which discredits you. It's a joke, come on. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Your slide development could use a little less text, especially the filler words. This, the, you put whole sentences on slides, and I'm not a big fan of that.
If you ask a question on stage and you get a response, because there might be recordings going on and because there might be other people who are watching you and not actually seeing how many hands get put up, say how many hands get put up, or it's only a few or half the audience, it looks like almost all of you.
Next we have 2 columns.
You stated the problem. So I knew exactly what you're doing, and I also know that selling service is very difficult. You tended to focus on us 4 more than the other people
yes.
in the audience. And you know, as an accomplished speaker, that's a no-no.
Yes.
One thing I would suggest is to keep your hands out of your pockets, because it looks a bit nonchalant.
Okay.
And now that means you have to find something to do with your hands, and I have the same problem. And so what I do is I have a presentation remote, and it also avoids me from having to walk back over to my computer to go to the next slide.
You started off saying, how do we get the salespeople to have a basic understanding of what this actually is selling? And I agree, I think that's a fantastic problem to try and solve. The problem is, you're not going to have your salespeople sitting in a programmer's course. At least none of the salespeople that I know want to get anywhere near it or spend that much time going into that detail.
When you're giving a talk,
yes,
write a talk that your audience will find interesting. Know your audience.
Stay tuned. The winner is revealed, as well as a list of all the contestants with more photos.
Get UI controls for data visualization, layout, input, and more inside the ComponentOne Windows 8 Studios. Designed to enhance the rich user experience of Windows 8, these controls give you powerful and unique functionality to help you build better and more compelling Windows Store apps. No matter whether you develop in C#, VB, or JavaScript, ComponentOne has controls for you. Visit ComponentOne.com/winrt to learn more and download the controls today.
Drum roll, please. And the winner of the TechEd 2012 Speaker Idol Contest is David Giard. Go to ComponentOne.com/RussCam to find other episodes and check out my blog. Don't miss an issue of the Russ Cam TV Daily News with feeds from over 400 industry influentials. Subscribe today at russcam.componentone.com. Plus follow Russ Cam TV on Twitter and Facebook.